Here's a video on how to take off the turbo off of a Volvo D13. You're going to take off the air box assembly first. You got 2 bolts going on the top over here. You got to take off, I think they're 14mm bolts, they go into there. Then you're going to take off 2 clamps. There's one on this hose right here. You got to take that off, and you're going to take off this one right here that goes to the turbo. Once you do that, you take off 4 or 3 screws holding the clamps that has a sensor wire attached to it. These are the clamps, and it has this sensor right here. It goes all the way around to the top. You're gonna unclip these clips that attach to the top part of the assembly. They go over here, and then once you do that, you should be able to pull off the airbox assembly. Careful, don't forget about these, because you're gonna rip the wire. You're gonna rip the wire if you're gonna forget about them. So disattach this sensor, and you should be able to take off this airbox assembly. Next, you're gonna come around to the driver's side of the truck. You're gonna have 3 buckets ready. You have this kind of hose. You're gonna put one side of the hose into a bucket, and as soon as you plug in this right here, like so, it's gonna start pouring current right away. So have the other end of the hose already inside a bucket. Once you do that, once you have all the coolant drained, you took off the airbox assembly, you're gonna disconnect 3 wires going from the turbo. You have the intake pressure sensor wire, you have the turbo RPM wire connector, and you have the VGT connector. You're gonna disconnect all 3 of these, and then you're gonna take off the clamp holding the pipe going from the turbo to the intercooler. You're gonna take off the clamp going from the turbo to the exhaust. I didn't do it, I should have done it, but for the sake of making my works more space for myself, I took it off with this. But you want to take off as least bolts as possible, because there's always a chance that they're gonna break or strip because they're rusty, stuff like that. Once you take this clamp off and you pull the pipe out, you're gonna take off this bolt right here that has a pipe going through it. That pipe is right here. You're gonna take that off. You're gonna take off this bolt right here that has another pipe going through it as well, and that's right here. It goes to over there. And then you're gonna take off this huge bolt that has 2 pipes going through it, like so, like this, and that goes to over here. Once you do that, there's 2 more things you gotta do. You gotta take off the oil pipe bolt right there. There's an oil pipe that goes into there, and that oil pipe comes from over here, from the bottom. Once you do that, you gotta pull out this pipe over here from the bottom of the turbo. Let me see if I can show you guys. It goes to over here, the back side of the turbo. You gotta pull it out. It does not have any bolts in it. You gotta carefully pull it out. Use a pry bar or something to push against and pull it out. Once you do that, that should be everything to take off. You pull. Oh, one more thing. You gotta. Once you do that, you take off the 4 bolts holding the turbo to the exhaust manifold. So you got the back ones are pretty hard to get to. I use a 14mm wrench like this to get to them. Very nifty wrench. I take those off, and the ones over here are pretty easy to get to, 14mm bolts. So you got your wires disconnected. You got the clamp holding the pipe off. You got this clamp holding the exhaust off. You got your pipes off on the bottom as well. That one right there. And that should be all to take off the turbo.